In honor of International Women's Day, I wanted to bring together real women with real stories to share how they left their 9 to 5 to start their own business and do more of what they love. Now, as we all know, going from employee to entrepreneur is a process and it takes steps and tools and resources in order for you to do just that. So, I wanted these women to come and share with you exactly how they went through this process from employee to entrepreneur so that you can get inspired and also learn some of the amazing steps that they took in order to do what it is that they love within their business. All right, this series is called Confessions of a Corporate Misfit, and I know that you are going to walk away feeling inspired or take some steps and tools that you can apply to your own life if you're looking to leave your 9 to 5.
You're listening to the Corporate Misfit Podcast with Brittany Darrington, where female entrepreneurs can get powerful tips and advice on how to start, launch, and grow their business.
Patti, thank you so much for joining me on the Corporate Misfit Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you and learn more about how you left your 9 to 5 and built your thriving business.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk to you and all of your listeners. This is something I'm so passionate about.
Yes. Now, Patti, a lot of people, when they leave their 9 to 5, they're either two versions. They either know what they're doing or they leave and they're like, what is next? So what's next for me? When you left your 9 to 5, what were you doing prior to what you do now? And how did you go about that process?
So I was probably like a combination of the two.
Uh-huh.
I thought I knew more than I did, for sure. I was working as a coordinator for an engineering regulator, and I was doing some writing, but not the kind of writing I do now.
Mm-hmm.
I was writing like web copy and stuff like that. And I sort of transitioned and thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And then, as it happens, I didn't. I ended up switching paths multiple times, but, I think that's the process for a lot of us though.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I left my 9 to 5, I thought everything was going to be perfect and that this gorgeous game plan would make it happen. And then all of a sudden I got into the real world and I'm like, this is nothing like what I planned for. This is a whole other process.
I think we're kind of sold this idea that once you start your own business, you're going to be working from a beach, you're going to be drinking Mai Tais, and you're probably going to work in your pajamas for like 5-6 hours a week.
Yeah.
That's not at all the way it was for me anyways.
Yeah, that's the dream that we're sold as before we become entrepreneurs, because people make it look that way, especially on Instagram, Facebook. Oh, I only work 1 hour a week. And you're like, how? Yeah. How is that possible? Now, Patti, when you decided to leave, did you have a business plan or did you have a game plan on what you were going to do next and how you were going to do it? I know you had some changes, but did you at least initially have a plan?
I did. So I'm a big planner. Mm-hmm. So even if things don't go according to my plan, I have a plan that's not working. So I had a business plan and I followed it pretty faithfully for the first little bit. And then I actually had to completely redo it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had a financial plan. So I knew exactly how much money I had to make in order to kind of fulfill my requirements to my family, sort of, I guess is kind of the way to put it. Yeah. So I did have plans for sure. And then, I think it's just human nature to just adjust as you need to.
Absolutely. Now, when you decided to say bye 9 to 5, was everyone supportive? Did you have that group of individuals, whether that be family or friends, saying you could do this, or what was that like?
I would say that I had support from the people who mattered. Mm-hmm. So my husband, once he realized that the kind of writing I was doing wasn't the starving artist kind of writing that everybody initially thinks, they're like, oh my God, you're going to write a novel and you're going to die, eating macaroni, right? That's what people think. Mm-hmm. Once he realized that that was not at all the kind of writing I was doing, and that this was actually a feasible way to start a business and to earn decent money, he was really supportive. And I would say he was the number one person I had to kind of convince. Mm-hmm. My parents, on the other hand, are they're in their 70s and they do not understand. So, so there, I would say would not be supportive, but I don't really need their support at this point. So I would say, yeah, I have like really good friends that have always been, as supportive as they possibly could be. So I think that's really huge, is to have like, the important people be supportive of what you're doing, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's something that a lot of new entrepreneurs, that it's one of those things where sometimes we get caught up on having support and having everyone agree and be excited about our ideas and our business. But just having that support from the people who matter, like you said, is so important, because that's all we need. And if we can just stay focused and tunnel vision on that support that we're receiving from them and accept it, then it makes it so much easier to like keep going and stay motivated and whatnot, because you know that you have that person's support.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine doing without support. Like, I
Mhm.
think it would be a very lonely existence to do it without anybody supporting you. I can't imagine.
Absolutely. Are you in any communities or any other, like outside of family and friends? Do you have any business communities that you participate in, or that you um, like go out and seek to make sure that you have some like-minded individuals in your circle as well?
Absolutely. So right now I'm in a copywriting mastermind.
Hmm.
That's really helping me to scale my business, I would say, more than anything. So it comes with, mentorship built in and coaching. Plus all the people who are also in it are, people that are, going through the same things as you. So that's immediately just so, it's so comforting to have people who know what you're going through as an entrepreneur. And then I have multiple little pockets of friends and other entrepreneurs that I talk to very regularly that are, they're supportive when I'm having a down day, and I'm supportive when they're having a bad day. It's just, I think when you work as a solopreneur, it's really important to have those little circles of people who can give you some help when you need it.
Absolutely. Because I was going to ask you too, even as a solopreneur, how do you stay motivated? How do you just keep yourself going anytime you decide that you're going to work?
Well, I am a big believer of like planning the crap out of my life. So I have like time blocking,
Mhm.
and I am very dedicated to my calendar.
Mhm.
And like if I have a deadline, I don't miss my deadlines unless like something really tragic has happened.
You have to
So I
see my
think
calendar. You would love
absolutely,
it. You would love it.
yeah. Yeah, I probably would, because I'm a big fan of them. And so I think that's, I'm very deadline driven.
Mhm.
So that alone really motivates me. But also like I plan things, like I plan out my marketing, I plan out my social media. So I think that's really helpful too.
Oh yeah. And what happens usually in the very beginning stages when we go into entrepreneurship, we have this freedom. And so it's like, okay, what do I do with my time? How do I do this? And how do I schedule my day? But planning out your day is so powerful, because it can create, if you need that, if you need the structure, especially, it can help you to really stay on top of your task and get things done. And time blocking to me has been the best thing that could have ever happened. Like the
Oh,
best thing.
yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a productivity maker,
Hmm.
to know, okay, well, I have this block of time that I'm going to do this. Like, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think, oh, like I have this free time. What am I supposed to do now? It's like, okay, this is what my calendar says I'm doing. So I guess that's what I'm doing. I think that's really powerful for sure.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What I usually also find too is when we are in that process of trying to figure out what we're going to do next and how we're going to do it, sometimes we run into like that idea overload. And we're like, okay, I want to implement this. I want to implement that. I want to try all these new things in my business. Did you ever experience? I know you kind of had a few transitions before you got into full time copywriting, but did you ever experience like that idea overload? And if so, how did you handle
Yeah, I call it my squirrel syndrome, because, it's like, oh, the shiny object syndrome, where you're going
that?
after everything. Yeah, I think everybody has that. I am a big believer in goal setting. So I set goals like quarterly, and I have this phrase that I say, and it's, does this make the boat go faster? And, it came from the London Olympic team, rowing team or something. But anyways, it's like everything I do needs to drive my business forward. So that actually culls out a lot of those ideas that are just like floating around in my mind, because if they're not helping me reach at least this quarter's goals, they either have to get put away or put to the side until next quarter, because all of those little things will really derail your progress. And I think that's something that because most of us don't have any problem with idea generation. We have problems with idea implementation. So what's the ideas that we're actually going to implement? Are they actually going to drive our business forward? So I try to limit those things, knowing that I do have a million good ideas, just like everybody does, but they're not all really valid business ideas.
Oh, I love that phrase that you said too, because that is so true. If it's not pushing you forward to whatever your quarterly and your annually goals are, then don't do it. Keep it off to the side and pick it back up later. But that is so important, because especially the first year of business, you want to just implement everything. You're like, I can do this, I can do that shiny object thing where you're like, okay, I want to have this in my business. But having those ideas and being all over the place doesn't move you forward. It's when you get down to the nitty gritty and say, this one thing or these 5 things, this is what I'm going to focus on for 90 days, helps you to get to that next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, starting a business is one thing, but finding clients is another. How did you go about finding your ideal customers? And how did you also identify who you wanted to work with?
So my background was B2B. So that was kind of a natural progression for me. And at first, when I first started copywriting, I was like, oh, I can just do everything for everybody. But as niching really is the way to go. So for me, B2B was just a natural thing. And once I figured out who I wanted to work with, then I started figuring out where they are. So I'm actually really active on LinkedIn and get a lot of lead generation from there. So I, again, it's like the squirrel thing, right? You could spend all your time on all the platforms, but it's really figuring out like, where do your ideal clients hang out? And then putting the vast majority of your effort into that, whatever, if it's social media or if it's cold emailing or whatever that might be. I think it's important to really focus on what's going to work the best for your ideal clients, because B2B is not going to be on the same platform as like a B2C company, right? It's just different.
Absolutely. And that's so true. Like, find out where your ideal customer is hanging out. Cause I think that's what a lot of people try to do in the very beginning stages, especially. We try to be on every platform, or we try to be everywhere in the very beginning, and it becomes overwhelming. And then sometimes we experience burnout, which I've experienced so many times.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced burnout? And if so, how have you got back on track and just kind of recharged your batteries?
Yeah, I think every entrepreneur has it at some point in time, because we work so much. We don't have a 9-to-5 saying you're going to work from 9 to 5 and then you get to go home and do nothing. Instead, we work, from 8 to 6, and then we go lay on the couch and we still write out something on using our laptop or whatever. So for me, it's trying to carve out, and I would say I haven't successfully quite gotten this yet. I'm still working on it, but I have to take off a certain amount of time every week. Like, I can't work 7 days a week, or I start to lose my motivation to actually accomplish the things I want to accomplish. And so it seems kind of backwards that you work less and you get more done, but that's actually the way it is for me, is that if I can, take every single Sunday off and maybe half of Saturday, I can actually get way more accomplished the next week than I did working 7 days a week. So that's a big one for me, is just making sure I have the right amount of time off, and that I'm also that you take care of yourself, because I think it's so easy to sit in a computer chair and work all the time, and you eat garbage and you never work out and you never see your friends and you don't see sunlight. Like, you're just not taking care of yourself. So I think that's really important as well.
Oh yeah, it will definitely take a toll on you. And I was speaking to someone else not too long ago, but they mentioned your business is only as healthy as you are. And like when you take care of yourself and you really take that time to take those days off, eat healthy, or go and get sunlight, it allows you to just kind of like recharge your batteries, and then come into your company as a whole versus coming like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm gonna half-ass do this. Basically, I really want to show up as my whole self, and in order for you to do that, you have to be able to give yourself that time and rest and do whatever is needed for you to come as your full self. So I love that. Now,
Yeah, and I think in some ways we have glorified the whole workaholic, the entrepreneur as a workaholic. That's become this ideal that we should strive towards, and it just doesn't work for most of us.
No, and that's a scary thing too, because in the very beginning, if you are going on this hustle and grind mode where it's 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, or whatever it may be, you just ultimately, your business just goes, or it grows, but you go, and so that's the worst, because then that foundation or that thing that you were building, either you no longer love it or it crashes in the ground because you can't give any more energy to it.
Yeah.
So it's so important to take care of yourself. Do you have any mindset routines or any success routines that you do throughout the day or in the morning?
Well, I would say mindset is something I have put a huge amount of effort into the last probably 6 months, when I realized that really mind blocks are or my mindset is really can be those roadblocks that are in your way, right? If you have mindset issues, you have roadblocks, something is standing in your way. So for me, I have spent a lot of time on it. And I think I wouldn't say I have anything daily, although I do try to do gratitude and stuff like that. But what I have discovered is that so often, whenever I have a really tough decision that I have to make, or I'm struggling with something, I can almost guarantee if I don't quit, if I push through it, that's some kind of a mindset issue. And on the other side is going to be, peace for having gotten through it, and the ability to scale or whatever. But I think for me, it was actually the biggest thing with mindset was actually for me to understand what my mindset issues were, because I would have told you I had none, a year ago. I would have said, oh, I have none. I'm so ready for this. And then as you go along, you're like, Jesus, I have so many of these. So for me to actually be able to figure out that it's a mindset issue and then push through it was a really big one. And I wouldn't say I have any actual tools for it though. It's just like plugging away.
I love what you said about like pushing through and like finding that like way to get over that mountain. And then once you get there, you're like, ooh, I made it. That feels good. Because and that is something that so many of us, like so many entrepreneurs, we want to push through, but we stop before we even make it. And sometimes that mountain that we're climbing, we're almost to the top, but we just can't see it because all the clouds are in the way. Yeah. And so once we can get there, it feels so powerful and like liberating to be able to hit your goals or see you get through something that you never thought you were capable of even doing. So I love that. Now, when we start businesses, sometimes we are afraid to invest in ourselves. We're afraid to put any money into our own selves just because we're like, everything has to go to our new business. Did you take time to invest in any self-development or any training or any education to help you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually a huge fan of continuous learning. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important, especially, as we get older. If you don't continuously work on yourself, like you're going to end up being a dinosaur as an entrepreneur. So I invested in multiple things. I really invested heavily in copywriting, like honing my craft. So I took courses, in masterminds, tens of thousands of dollars I have spent, because not only do I want to feel confident in what I'm delivering to my clients, I want them to get the very best results, because really word of mouth advertising is the best, right? I mean, it doesn't cost you anything except for doing a really good job in the first place. So I invested in a lot of copywriting courses. I also invested in like some business courses. So I took like classes in accounting and in how to write a business plan, even social media, some of that kind of stuff. Those are probably the two biggest things I have invested in, like, a lot of coaching and that kind of thing.
I love it, because that is so important to be able to just either one, gain that information so you don't become a dinosaur, because business is constantly changing. And as I know over the last 4 years, social media was not heavily in my business as it is today. Now we're like, okay, we spend 30 or 40% creating social media versus doing what we used to do back in the day, and doing things completely different. So it's so interesting how things change, and keeping yourself up to date and educated on things, so powerful, and it just makes you a stronger entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
I have so many things. I love being an entrepreneur. I think one of them is that there is no ceiling on my income. Really, I can make as much money as I put the effort into. And I have now, as an entrepreneur, I have multiple, income streams that I can generate if I want to. I can do passive income. Like, I love that really, I'm also, I don't have the guaranteed income, but I think the benefits far outweigh it once you get your feet, firmly on the ground. So I think that's a big one. I also really like the flexibility, my daughter's a university student, brand new, and I was able to take a day off not long ago to go with her to like figure out where all of her classes were. And, it would have been difficult to do that without previously planning it. When I work corporate. So I think those are the two big things, plus maybe working with who I want to. It's nice to be able to choose who you want to work with.
Yes. And that's the thing. You can eliminate like all of the clients who you believe are a nightmare. You're like, you know what? I don't think we're a good fit, and keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I love that.
so powerful.
I know. Now, what would you tell a female entrepreneur who's looking to start a business, but they are still in their 9 to 5 and they're kind of like on the edge? They're like, okay, I'm thinking about doing it, but I don't know yet. What would you tell that woman?
I would say to just do it. So don't quit your 9 to 5 until you have it at least somewhat figured out, but try it, right? Know that you have to dip your toes in before you can actually accomplish anything. And I would also tell them that it's going to be more difficult than you ever imagined, but also much more rewarding than you ever dreamed it would be. So, if you can get through that first 2 years, probably, and just constantly like work on your business and scale it and plan. I would also say really plan for quitting your 9 to 5, like have that emergency fund, have, know exactly what you need to do in order to successfully start your business. But I would say just do it. Like, do it. And especially if you're doing it from your in addition to your 9 to 5, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, that's what I always say. Like, if you have your 9 to 5, like, try it out. And maybe if you're not comfortable just jumping out there and doing it yet, like, try it out. Maybe you schedule, say if you're a coach, maybe you schedule your calls when you get off of work or during your lunch hour or at night or whatever it may be. But like, doing that, it makes it so much easier. And then it kind of like takes away that fear of, okay, I'm going to leave my job. It like gives you that like courage where you can just go out there and just jump out there and do it, And so I love that you say just do it, because that usually paralyzes so many people. We think about starting businesses. We have thought about it for years and years and years, but then we fall into the trap of, well, what happens without insurance, or how do I make it without having a steady paycheck coming? And we have all of these things that are real, but they sometimes hold us back from actually moving forward. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is, again, those are the first of the mindset issues that you're going to have to constantly work through. Because, I hear people saying, oh, well, I have kids and I want to start a business, but I work 40 hours a week. It's like, well, if you really want it, you will carve out a little bit of time to start and see if you like it. And then if you do, you can start planning for the future, but you should try it first and see if you actually do like it. I mean, there'd be nothing worse than thinking you want to be a coach and then realizing when you're doing it that you just hate it. Like, that would be terrible.
I know that usually happens too. A lot of people will be like, I want to do this. And they go into it and you're like, okay, why did I even think about that? Now we're going to play a fun game. It's called Lightning Round, where I'm going to ask you a few questions and you'll respond with one answer words, except for the last one. And I'll let you know when that is. Okay. All right. So the first question is, who is one entrepreneur that inspires you or that you look up to?
I would say Joanna Wiebe from Copy Hackers.
Ooh, I need to check her out.
It's fantastic. Super, super talented.
Love it. Now, what is one business book that you absolutely love and recommend and that you have read?
I am currently loving Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. I really like it. It's she just is so full of factual stuff. It's research based. It's not opinion based. It's really good.
I love her because she's in Houston. I'm in Houston, Texas. And nice. I had an opportunity to go to one of her events, and she's just, like you said, she provides factual information and it's not just like opinion based. And I love how powerful the information she's sharing and what she writes, because it makes you really think. It makes you say like, oh, I need to make some changes.
Yeah.
All right. What is one product or service that you cannot live without within your business?
I would say Google Docs, because I have it on every single device. And if I come up with a good idea, I jot it down on Google Docs. And it's one of those things I would be sorely hurting if I didn't have it.
I know. I would have notepads everywhere if I didn't have Google Docs. What is one social media platform that you can't live without, even though I think I already know what it is? But
I would say it's LinkedIn. I get lots of leads from LinkedIn.
Love it. Now, this is where you can answer with more than one question, more than one word. But what is one mantra that you live by in your business?
I would say something like purpose over perfection. Because I think so many of us get stuck in this perfection mindset. And I discovered a long time ago that that's just holding me back. Really, done is better than perfect. And really, if you're producing something that is purpose driven, it doesn't have to be perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that perfectionist, getting stuck with making things perfect and everything has to look a certain way before I can release it. And again, it can be one of those roadblocks that just keeps you from moving forward. And I know I've been there way too many times, from website to like an email where I'm like, it has to be perfect before I can send it out. But just doing it is better than focusing on the perfect side of things. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Patti, thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast. How can we stay connected and in touch with you?
So people can find me on my website, which is just www.pattihaus.com, which is PATTIHAUS.com. That's probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. I will make sure to leave that link in the show notes for our listeners and also our viewers so that they can stay connected with you. And again, I'm so grateful and I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me. This was super fun.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Corporate Misfit podcast, we invite you to check out the Corporate Misfit Club. The Corporate Misfit Club is the essential resource for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business they actually love. Whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur in your startup phase or simply thinking about taking the leap into entrepreneurship, we've got your back, girl, with our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive members-only discount perks, and unlimited tools. We also have a supportive community of women where our members share stories, experiences, their wins, and business tips. The Corporate Misfit Club is the perfect place to be to start, launch, or grow a business. So check it out at corporatemisfitclub.com.